Welcome to the Freedom or Bust podcast with Joelle and Natalie Rivera. You are here because you will accept nothing less than the freedom to determine your destiny, do what you love, and fulfill your life's purpose. We believe that self-employment is the ultimate form of empowerment, and our mission is to bring you guests whose powerful entrepreneurship stories and real-world advice will give you the inspiration and tools to create a business and life that you love. Today's guest is Jimmy Murray. Jimmy's educational journey was disrupted by a volatile home life. However, he persisted, went to college, and studied everything from statistics to film to marketing. His career has taken an equally eclectic path with a variety of jobs, including being, as he calls, a bagel jockey, stand-up comedy, customer support, programming, and inevitably to entrepreneurship. In 2007, after burning all of his bridges and paying forward poor financial and life skills picked up in childhood, it all coalesced in a rapid period of decline, leading to a few too many pills, getting kicked out of his university, and ending up homeless. His period of homelessness was an awakening experience that further solidified his natural entrepreneurial inklings as he was forced to further develop his tenacity, resourcefulness, and radical personal responsibility. With his last $50, he turned his life around, taught himself coding and artificial intelligence, and today he's a voiceover artist and a self-proclaimed beast at content creation on all platforms. Jimmy brings humor into every aspect of his business and is dedicated to motivating people to believe that nothing is impossible.
So welcome. It's truly an honor to have you here with us. We're excited because you truly have a transformational story and your ability to really redefine yourself. I think is a powerful way for people to understand that they can also face challenges and then look at creating whatever life they want to create.
I think with that blurb you just threw out about me, I think the interview's over. I think we mentioned everything we needed to hit. You did a fantastic job. Done. We're done.
Hey, well, you were worthy of such an introduction. So let's get started taking a little bit more of a look at how that experience that I alluded to in the introduction kind of gave you a kickstart onto your path of entrepreneurship. So the first thing that we would like to know is, now looking back at that experience, do you see any sort of deeper meaning or reason that it happened that led you to where you are today?
So hitting back at your question, there were like 9 different things you mentioned that might have contributed to my entrepreneurial click. Are you referring specifically to the homelessness or the preceding events?
Yes. Well, I'd say the homelessness experience, because I know from what you've shared previously, it was sort of a pivotal moment. But really, it's however we want to take it. Where did it fit into your drive to be an entrepreneur? Were you an entrepreneur before that happened, or did that all come later?
Part of it's not just being an entrepreneur. It's really about being a creator. Because obviously you face all these challenges, you face all these different things, but at the end of the day, you became a creator because you do so many different things, and you're willing to just deep dive without fear and just put it out there. I know you just made a course and it's like, oh, I'm going to make a course in like 30 days. You just put it out there. And I think all those things are.
You taught me to do that, Joelle.
It's his fault.
It's my fault.
Yeah. So, looking back and talking to my parents, they're like, yeah, you always had like this entrepreneurial drive. You just didn't know how to implement entrepreneurial talent. Like I wanted to do this car wash, and I presented like a business model to my grandfather, my father, my mom. They're like, that's cool. But people can get like a way more professional car wash than what you're offering. I'm like, oh, with the personal touch, not be like my value add or whatever. I didn't say value add when I was 5 years old, but that was basically it. This desire to make money, this desire to create. As I'm talking out loud, I'm remembering asking my mom, hey, what's your favorite friend? And she was like, well, obviously Jennifer Aniston or Rachel. I'm like, I'm going to have you meet her someday. Because I just thought I was going to be this hotshot comedic talent down the line. This is as early, I guess, as 1996, 1997, the second and third season of Friends. Pivoting to the homeless moment, that really drives a sense of you have to rely on yourself. And you have to be extremely resourceful. And these are 2 talents that are extremely integral, extremely instrumental in in making yourself an entrepreneur. Those are, out of all the like 10 or 12 skills you need to be an entrepreneur, resourcefulness and self-reliance are probably in the top two.
Yeah. And I can really relate to a lot of your story, because I also grew up in the struggle. I actually moved around sometimes every 6 months. We were moving somewhere else, a lot of uncertainty. So how did you deal with the uncertainty in your life? And how did you come to like embrace that uncertainty?
So each bit of uncertainty brought with it a different strategy, because it often was a different type of uncertainty. I immediately thought, when you asked this question, of middle school, and my escape was hanging out with my buddy who lived across the street, my buddy who lived on a farm, which is hard to do in an area like South Maryland outside DC. But we were the house of the United States Department of Agriculture, so he actually lived there. We all read like the same Star Wars books. Was escape number one. As I'm living my tumultuous life throughout high school, trying to go to this private Catholic school, trying to really make a name for myself, I turned to Comedy Central. I would stay up late and watch the old Saturday Night Live episodes they would air at that point in time. One of my favorites being this Cheers reunion episode they have. And I wish I could go into it, but I think Kirstie Alley is the host, and they had embedded like a lot of the cast into the band. So when she does her intro, she's like, I miss all my friends, and then they all come up on stage, and it's one of the most heartwarming moments, I think, in the history of television. Moving to college and my later high school years, and then later on in college, it was no longer watching comedy, but becoming comedy. I explored stand-up classes, improv classes. I started writing a sketch comedy show, which I think a few of the scripts are still floating around there. I get Facebook messages from people all the time. Hey, I found your old script that you gave me. I was like, oh God, I remember how much of a kind of a hard pitch that was. I don't consider myself to be a natural salesman, which is like skill number 3 for being an entrepreneur. But I remember really like wanting people to read my sketch comedy script in high school. And from there on out, it was like after the dark time, it was, hey buddy, you look like you're going through a dark time. I hate to do the whole comparison thing, but here's what happened to me, and here's how I got out of it, and here's some steps for you to get out of it. So each iteration provided a new defense mechanism and new coping mechanism for me.
Yeah.
Well, what I love about what you've done throughout your life is it seems like you've gone to 2 different ultimate resources. One is humor, whether it's, you watching and appreciating humor that someone else is using to make light of life situations that suck, or you're doing it to yourself in your own life, or cultivating the talent. And then the other thing is that you're always looking at a way of like finding something good out of what happened. Like your attitude and your drive to find the lesson or to see something positive. Like it really does show through in all of the different aspects of your journey.
And actually, for me, one thing that's interesting is that, like, growing up in high school and things, all my friends would be like in San Juan, in Puerto Rico, and everyone would be drinking and doing all this other stuff. Not that I wasn't doing it, but like, instead of hanging out, talking and doing all these different things, I would be with the homeless population. Like, I would be intrigued talking to them and really knowing about their life, what got them there and things like that. And for me, it's like they were very resourceful. I could learn so much about life and just how to overcome certain obstacles that they were dealing with on a daily basis. So what lessons would you say is the biggest lessons that you got from your experience? Not only from that experience, but maybe some of the other challenges that you faced.
It's a painful lesson that I'm still learning on a daily basis, but you can't have pride in these situations. And literally that's like a big liability. When I was homeless, like just asking somebody for change is something I wouldn't do, or asking somebody just for an opportunity is something I wouldn't do. I felt like I had to internalize it. I felt everything had to be driven by myself. And so outsourcing is something that I am more than willing to do now. As I'm getting into the podcast space and YouTube space and artificial intelligence space, I'm quickly realizing a lot, if not all, of my weaknesses and the stuff that I can do, but it would just be way too time consuming to do. And then in a space as competitive as the entrepreneurial space, every second counts. So you really need to be able to outsource those weaknesses and maximize your strengths simultaneously. That's
a really important insight. And that's actually something that we've struggled with because when you are that, like, so, you know, you're so focused on taking personal responsibility that, and you get used to that, that to try to put some of that responsibility elsewhere is really challenging. I think that a lot of people who end up being entrepreneurs, if they start out like totally independent, that's a really big hurdle. So the fact that you're, you know, at that place where you're basically welcoming in the help is awesome, because it's a big step.
And for us, I think part of the challenge, and it's a challenge that you keep growing within it, of being able to let go, because for us, it's also like, we have an idea, we want to get it done, and we want to get it done now, and we'll stay up for as long as we need to just to get it done. And sometimes when you are outsourcing, it takes a little bit more planning. It takes a little bit more forethought of what you want to do and how you want to create it. So
yeah, we can't just, you know, do something spontaneous and pull it out of our butt like we're used to when we're working with someone else. We have to be planning ahead and really thinking about what it's going to take at a higher level.
Maybe that's the trick. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. He used to service large semi trucks. In fact, if you ever go to Raleigh and you see a Snapple truck, I can probably tell you what services he did to it, definitely, and what services I did to it. Mostly windshield wiper fluid refills and tire pressure inflation. But there's just a ton of truth to that. Like, you can either do stuff all on your own and be agile, or when you have to outsource it, you have to understand that's the trade-off. The agility is the trade-off. Wow, you're teaching me things here. This is great.
Yes, good stuff. So another thing that obviously happened along your path is there's some decisions you had to make, probably some of them harder than others. And so I'm just wondering if there are any distinct decision points that you found yourself in, whether it's, you know, when you were going to college or during your homelessness experience or after the fact. And then what was that decision point? How did you approach it? And like, how do you make those decisions? What's that defining factor for you?
There are so many ways to map this out, and I'm sorry, this interview can only go so long. I'm reminded of the T-shirts I tried to sell in college, based entirely on jokes, one-liners from my stand-up act. And at some point, I had to say, "Hey, this thing was a failure," and I put it all on a credit card. So now I have to work to pay this debt down, which led to an opportunity I thought I had with a friend to, at the time, sell in-game currency. So there's this whole industry surrounded by these huge RPGs that are online, and you can sell services and items and currency for these things. And we thought we could make a pretty penny doing that, and it turned out not to be the case. And again, I put that all on not money I had saved up, but money that I thought I had, which was not cool. So I had so life had to teach me twice not to use money you don't have for your own enterprises. And the harshest decision from that was, can I still be friends with somebody like that? And this has led to and informed later businesses. The most recent one was this military media company that I co-owned. We made podcasts and YouTube for the military, and I thought it was fantastic. I love serving service members. I love just helping those who have sacrificed so much of their lives to keep us, safe. And the company, being that we were both remote, he was in Nevada at Nellis, and I was here. It became harder and harder to control the amount of projects we kept trying to take on. And the final project was a YouTube show dedicated to the female veteran community, which is great that there was a substantial need there. There was a market that wasn't being catered to. Nobody was making military media for female veterans or active duty female service members. That's fine. It kind of created friction for me because I'm neither female and I'm not a veteran and I'm not active duty, which begs the question of why did I co-own a military media company? I thought, and my friend thought, that it'd be a fun thing. We created the cool little character for me. I was the rank of E0 or E0 in all four branches, and it was just a fun project to be a part of for sure. But at some point, I'd say I this has grown apart from me. I need to sell my stake, and this is something that just happened last year. So finally, I was in a place where I could handle my affairs maturely. Finally, I had all the life lessons that the universe had been trying to teach me. I was able to apply and implement. And it doesn't make it easier, but it's business. Nothing is personal.
Yeah. Well, I think you make several good points. One of them is really learning how to let go, and that's something that we struggled with at the beginning because we are avid creators and we've had other businesses, and really knowing when to let some of them go. So they're not really working for us or what we want to create, and they're just not aligned. Instead of spending all this time, money, and energy into it, saying, okay, I need to move on from this. And I think that can be very challenging. Another thing that you pointed out that we have to learn as well is when you partner with someone or when you're working with someone, and like really understanding that when you're getting into that business relationships, because we've launched businesses with other people, and then we find ourselves doing all the work or it just doesn't work out, and like really being more selective and understanding that it's almost like a marriage in some ways, that you really have to know who you're working with.
I laugh because it felt like that a lot of the time. Hey man, like I guess in the podcasting world, editing is like the dishes. Hey man, can you do the editing? No. All right. Well, it's been sitting there for 2 weeks and somebody has to do it. It just makes me laugh that you said it's like a marriage.
Yeah. So really, I do think that what you said there really does bring up two important points that comes up a lot with all the people that we work with, which is one, knowing when to quit. And which that can be for two different reasons. It can be either A, because it's not working, or it could just be realize this isn't for you. And then two is knowing who to partner with, and then how to successfully exit a relationship that's not working. Like those are the types of like dirty parts of entrepreneurship that people don't always talk about,
Yeah.
Everybody likes the highlight reel where you end up a millionaire. Nobody likes to talk about, oh, this is all the stuff I had to muck through first. What were you gonna ask?
No, actually, that's a good point, because a lot of people see it and they're like, oh, they create this and it seems so easy and it's easy for you. It's successful. They don't really see a lot of times, all the struggles, how many times you have to stay up all night and all the different things that are happening behind the scenes to just make something that seems simple work. One of the things I'm intrigued with and really understanding how people deal with this is really the aspect of fear. Because obviously, when we hear you talk, you've done a lot of different things. And every time you're going to do something, there's a fear of something new that you're creating. There's a fear of this unknown. Like, how do you deal with that fear and just take the next step and say, well, I'm just going to do it?
I will literally tell you the trick that has gotten me through everything. So everybody's probably familiar with the high dive. Have you experienced climbing up and then jumping off of a high diving board at a pool or a water park? And so every time I'm trying to do something new, like the human brain wants you to survive, and it sees what you're trying to do as something that's not really conducive to your immediate, maybe even intermediate survival. And I have to translate whatever it is I'm doing, be it comedy, tweets, AI, programming projects. I literally envision myself carrying something to the top of a high dive board and jumping with it. That is the trick that has led me this far and allowed me to survive and thrive in this environment. It's so ridiculous, but it works.
That's pretty awesome, actually, because we always preach the power of visualization, and we use it ourselves. But to do something like so extreme like that, it's almost like I can see how it's like, well, once you do it in your mind and you're like up there and you jump, then it's like, okay, well, now I kind of have to do it,
Yeah, and for us, actually, one of the things that we used to do is that even if it was like cold calling, because we hated cold calling, or doing something that I felt uncomfortable with, is like we had certain songs and we would literally just like blast them and start dancing in the middle of the living room like baboons, and then just get it out of the system.
I love that. What I wanted to bring up, but it wasn't my trick, was there was this guy who I think slept in the AOL headquarters. He was like homeless, and he started a startup company because he found a way into this building. And he would work out for an hour and a half every day, and he would just like live off corporate meals. It's a fascinating story of a guy trying to make it in high rent in California. But there's tons of things you can do. The thing you've mentioned, and just mindfulness things in general, which is huge right now, is keeping your mental and spiritual state in tandem with what you're doing and what you're passionate about.
Yeah. And we actually use visualization quite a bit. And we tell everyone that you should really visualize to make it like concrete in your mind. Even when I was sick and bedridden, like we used to look at all the images of things they wanted to do and we'd sit back and visualize it. And one of the crazy stories about visualization, I opened up a center in Orlando, and the day before I was like visualizing like this media coming in there and interviewing us in this epic moment. And then all of a sudden we get there, our grand opening, and there's no media, no nothing. And I'm like, no, it's going to happen. I saw it in my brain. I visualized it. It was so real. And then right when we were about to give up, the media showed up, like the local newscasters and stuff. And they set up exactly how I visualized it. And it looked just like I had seen it in my mind. So good.
That's some law of attraction stuff right there. Is the only comment I wanted to make. That's awesome.
Yeah, we have a laundry list of times where we have manifested some random stuff. Yeah. from what we knew we wanted and what we didn't know how it was going to come. That's really where our most miraculous things have come from. It's like that, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to visualize it, and I'm just going to set the intention and believe that it's possible without seeing the end result. And that's gotten us through so many obstacles. We manifested a publishing company one time where we said, we really want to be like Hay House. And then the next day we got a call from some lawyer that owned a publishing company that says, hey, you want to inherit my publishing company? So yeah, the law of attraction is one of those things that a lot of people hear and they think it's a bunch of woo-woo crap, but the truth is that it's happening all the time, whether you want to believe in it or not. And so it behooves you to learn the strategies of, expectation, having a positive attitude and getting clear on what you want. And then of course the biggest piece most people miss, which is taking the steps and the action that you need to actually move yourself in the direction of what you've decided you want.
Actually, with that said, how do you get yourself to action? Because obviously that's like the first step, and really, because you talk about the visualization and letting go of that fear, but then what gets you to that next point where you take action?
I like to listen to the song Push It to the Limit, and my visualization is often a montage of what the business growth should look like. So I guess I'm very theatrical, and especially like cinema, I'm very cinematic about how I do it.
Well, I guess it makes sense with your background and everything that you do and what you've studied, that you would bring that into it. And so another thing that a lot of people struggle with is once they become an entrepreneur and they start working independently, there's like all these challenges that you don't necessarily realize are coming, or that are very different than if you're an employee. And so I'm just wondering, what has been the hardest part of being like completely an entrepreneur and that aspect versus when you were an employee? Like, what's the hardest part of that?
Holding somebody accountable. So as an employee, like I can say, hey, boss, this process kind of sucks. Can we do anything to improve it? And they would often say no, but occasionally I would get the yes. But just some kind of some kind of point of contact that I can say, hey, I think this can be improved. Well, heads up, when you're an entrepreneur, when you are the employee, you are also the boss. So everything you do comes on your shoulders, and including the decision making. I had gotten used to so many no's. I was like, okay, I guess this is the way things always need to be. But no, when you're an entrepreneur, you get to make those decisions, and then you also get to do all the work with them as well, unless you outsource it.
Yeah, that's the best, when you make a decision to do something and then you're immediately faced with the reality that you just gave yourself a huge laundry list of crap that you have to do.
Yeah, well, and the sense of responsibility too, because obviously if something goes wrong, it falls on you. So
that gives me the sads, but it's a reality.
But it's also a good thing, because you also don't have to rely on someone else. So there's no one there to say no, but then there's also like no one there to drag you down. You just gotta, step up to the plate yourself.
That's correct. And I mean, if we're thinking about this at the highest level, everybody goes into entrepreneurship. Everybody goes into business for themselves because it's a huge risk and a huge reward. So these are just the manifestations of the trade-offs that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
So how do you use, obviously you're a comedian too, and I love that. I've seen you stand up several times in our podcasting meetings, and the joke of the day, you also have a podcast about the joke, kid-friendly joke of the day. So how do you use comedy in your own life?
In my own life, daily, I'm trying to write 2 or 3 jokes a day on Facebook or Twitter. And most of my day starts, if I'm doing like a warm up, I start with some kind of soundtrack from a video game. So I'll listen to 5 to 10 minutes from one of my favorite video games growing up. And then I'll watch 5 to 10 minutes of stand up or some sketch. And what that does is it aligns me for the day. I think it's important, and you might agree with me, or you might have different thoughts. And that's the whole point of dialogue, is that it gives me a routine. If I have at least 3 or 4 things that I can do the same every day, it allows me to be adaptable for the things that aren't going to be the same every day as an entrepreneur. And so what humor does for me is it mitigates my stress at the beginning. And then as I'm able to write more, it's connecting like my brainwaves so I can be more creative. And so it's a twofold approach, right? I'm using comedy as a way to de-stressify, and then also as a way to embolden what I hope to be further innovative ideas down the line.
Well, one of the things I love that you said, and I think that it's a good lesson for anyone, is that you have like your routines, certain things that create certainty in your life. So it makes it easier to deal with uncertainty in other areas of your life. Because obviously our brain does need some structure at some level. You just can't be all over the place all the time. And I think that sometimes as an entrepreneur, there's so many things happening, and it's like, you have to recognize, like Natalie always does her power hour. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, every morning I take about an hour where I'm like either listening to an audiobook or a podcast or watching something on YouTube or reading. Or journaling, something that's going to get my head in the right place and gives me that me time and that focus time. And then I also set my intentions. But what I like about what you said also is it's like you take the time to prime the pump, to get yourself in the right mood before you write your jokes. And I think that that's an important aspect of being an entrepreneur, is recognizing you have to prime the pump. You have to get yourself in the right mode to be able to effectively do anything. Because if you just like wait to see how you feel in the moment, then when you are in that mode where you have to get stuff done, but you're not feeling it, a lot of people just end up not getting anything done. But if you already know how to get yourself in the mood you want, then it gives you the opportunity to take action when you need to, because you're not just waiting to feel motivated, or like, in your case, not waiting to feel, like in a humorous mood. You're putting yourself in that place using tools that work.
Yep. So, yep. Another question that
we use humor a lot. We're like totally goofy and silly, like at all times.
Obviously not as funny as you, but we try.
We try not to take life too seriously. We try to make sure we're always having a good time. We're like, we're the jesters, because it keeps us able to be resilient and deal with the stress related to being an entrepreneur. If we didn't have a good attitude, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Outstanding.
So you were going to say something?
I was going to say outstanding, and I did. Oh, I was going to say, did you email me and say be there or be triangle? Because that tickled my funny bone. That was good.
Well, I said when I'm dealing with someone else that I already know values humor, it gives me permission to say the absurd things that I normally don't, because there's an expectation of something, I guess. But so I'm also been challenging myself to let my freak flag fly. So yes, I did tell him to be there or be triangle in our last communication.
Nice. So one question I do have is like, what are other things that you do maybe to be more efficient, or like stay on task or stay focused? Because those are some things that I see that a lot of people really struggle with.
Oh man, so we live in the age of infinitely free tools and resources online. And if there's not a tool or resource that A is either free or B, it just doesn't exist, I will write code to make my day more efficient. Just recently this weekend, I found my editing process to be tedious and repetitive. And that's when something's tedious and repetitive, it can often be written away with some simple lines of programming code. So I went ahead and automated my editing process. And so now which excites me more, to be able to do things that are more creative, that really require focus and agile problem solving from your head. So I think ultimately the question is, or to answer your question, what do I do to be more efficient and why do I do it? If I don't have to worry about the things that are tedious, then I can be a superstar on the things that require the things I'm actually really good at.
I love that. Automation is so much fun. Anything like we're like efficiency mongers. like I do things like I'm constantly trying to like cut off like one click from my process of like checking email. It's ridiculous.
I love that.
Yeah, we actually thought about making a course at one point of like 101 ridiculous things you can do to be more efficient.
Yeah, with my video editing, obviously now we have Victor who does a lot of our video editing, but I used to do a lot of it, and obviously with 60 courses, it takes up a lot of video. So I would get excited. Like I tell Natty, I just figured out how to cut like 3 seconds from my process. So, and always with everything we've done is that we've always looked at how to automate things. It's almost like, how can we, as soon as we get started, it's like, how can we improve? How can we automate? And then it's spending that real time to really reflect, because at the end of the day, what we value is time. So
it's the only resource we can't create, as far as I know. I don't know if physicists have discovered a way to create time, but I can't.
Well, I think you can figure that one out.
Yes, maybe you will be the ringer that brings that.
The coder that brings it into the world.
I bet there's a YouTube video that I just haven't discovered yet. Like, Jimmy, just invent time travel. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you make an online course?
Yeah. You have 30 days for that one.
Okay.
All right. So I want you to think back to your younger self and imagine like that classic, if you knew then what you know now, what would be the biggest piece of advice that you would give your younger self? And you can choose the age, whether it's 5, middle school, high school, college, before or after your homelessness experience, whatever it is. What would be that younger self, and what would be your advice for him?
And I don't know how to communicate this to my younger self, because I think it is the lifelong issue. Don't worry. And this, I would choose the age of 4. Don't worry. You've wasted 80% of your life worrying, and you could have invented, you could have been a billionaire or had a gold statue erected to yourself. I'm very vain in this scenario. Good Lord. Don't worry so much and spend time with people. It's a waste of time and energy, and you can be doing so many other things like coding automated processes for your friends, or writing jokes, or enjoying a craft beer. What is that? What the cool kids do? Craft beer? Yes.
Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do.
Yeah, I think you're right. But actually, you know what I love about that is that was an insight that I kind of figured out at one point in my life, like in high school, but I couldn't really implement it yet. But I knew that was the thing. That was what I had to figure out. So I actually had this quote that I had up on my wall, and it said, "The definition of wasted time is worrying about things you can't control." And like, I understood it intellectually at the time, but it took me years to actually be able to live it. But I think you're right on. Like, that is one of the biggest things that holds people back, like at any stage of life, really.
Yeah. Actually, one of the songs, "Don't Worry, Be Happy," is like,
Bobby Farron. Yay.
Yeah, it makes me feel good just to say it, right? But it's one of the songs I used to listen to a lot, like when I needed, just that extra reminder, just to put myself in the right place. And for me, I think partially is that I would gamify my life. So when something would happen that would worry or concern me, is like I would say, "Oh, this is just a game. You just got to learn how to play it." Like whether it's a class or something else, or doing something else. So.
I love your strategy. It reminds me of how I paid down debt. I would I would reward myself with $20 in lottery tickets every time I paid $1,000 to my debt. And so,
So did it ever pay off?
I think I was like $100 below break even by the end of it, which by the numbers isn't bad, but still obviously a waste. If you're trying to be an entrepreneur based on lottery tickets, that's not a sound strategy at all.
But hey, if it made it fun, then, because I love that though. Like, actually, that sounds like a great name for a course, is gamify your debt reduction.
Right?
There you go. 30 days.
All right. Invent time travel and gamify debt reduction. Okay. Got this.
Speaking of that, do you have any like fun projects or things that you're excited about, or things that you're working on now that you'd like to share?
I've been selected as the local resource for artificial intelligence. There's a famous YouTuber, Suraj Raval, who's been really just dominating the space right now. He's a hyper genius, and he in a field that grows. In a field that grows by the minute. He's keeping pace with it. It's a marathon and a sprint at the same time. It's people running 60 miles an hour. So I'm his Tampa resource in a school that has 800 deans across the entire world. I am still saving up for a sweet laptop that I can use to hopefully automate some, if not all, of my comedy writing process, or at least make cool things. There are so many libraries and APIs right now dedicated to the cool facets of the English language that I think I can use and implement to kind of have something build jokes for me, or at least ideate jokes for me, which is kind of the big thing, kind of the biggest pain point. Because if I can ideate jokes, then I can target those jokes to various market segments. And I guess that's kind of my approach. Can I write jokes just for somebody who needs shampoo, right? And then they can deploy it to the 18 to 25-year-old men or women that are looking for that specific kind of shampoo, I guess is the high level the high level description of that project. And finally, just keeping up with the podcast network that I'm voicing on, which is less exciting. And I probably should have ended with the comedy automation.
Well, the podcast is pretty awesome too. Obviously, we enjoy doing it, and we've seen what you've been up to, and you're doing amazingly with it. So, but speaking of the joke automation, like, how cool is that? Like, it's hard for people like us that don't understand coding beyond what I learned from the course that you made, being a complete novice. But how does that work? Like where's the starting point for a project like that?
That is a fantastically awesome question, because comedy, being subjective, has so many different starting points. That's why it was so overwhelming for me to try and take it on in the first place. But the initial, I guess, vector or direction, I would say, was considering the way Mad TV and Saturday Night Live kind of titled their sketches, and the inflection point was the movie American Sniper. And I was like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if they just did a movie called Canadian Sniper? That seems like a thing Saturday Night Live and Mad TV would do. And then I thought, hey, why do I have to think about this? Can I just put in like a list of all the countries, and it maps to like these movie titles? And from there I was like, hey, can I do what Weird Al does? Can I just like write a thing that parodies songs? And so I started researching the way like music's written and the way songwriting is done. And that sent me down a rabbit hole of an overwhelming amount of innumerable projects that can be done. So it really is a matter of taking one distinct facet of comedy and then running with it. And my ultimate vision for this, tying it back to the school of AI, is to really is to train people hopefully on coding and comedy and say, hey, I can do this one thing. Can you take care of the 1,000 other ways, 1,000 other modalities and styles to write these kinds of jokes? And so that's the way you do it. You start with one thing and then you branch out from there.
Well, and I guess it's the same thing with everything else in life. It's being able to start with that one thing and then kind of solidify it and then branch out. Because basically that's what happened with our business, is what we do many other things, but really we had a core business of coaching, and then that turned into a magazine, and then that magazine spurred into like conferences and all these different things, and like different tentacles, and some of it worked, some of it didn't, but it was fun.
And imagine telling your young self, hey, build this octopus of tentacles, build this entire empire. Probably would have been overwhelming, right? It's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you're supposed to do it one piece at a time. Because if you knew how big and crazy your ideas were going to become in the long run, you probably wouldn't start.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you kind of blew the mind of some people in the way that they see artificial intelligence or are listening, because, you know, comedy is something that they would never attach to it. You know, they see artificial intelligence as something more rudimentary
or cold,
and not realizing that artificial intelligence can really impact every part of our society.
Yes. Like if I was tasked with creating something that would just be me tomorrow, that's next to impossible. But with enough computing power and enough understanding of, I guess, the algorithms and coding and underlying precepts underneath it, I think we can see something within 5 to 10 years. We already have artificial intelligence that can write songs. These computers can make music from scratch. A computer wrote a Beatles song and it made me cry, which most Beatles songs do. So
that's pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive.
And so I know you mentioned, obviously, you've got other stuff going on. If this AI comedy is your dream project, what are your current projects, and like where would someone be able to find you? Like, what are your podcasts? What would people need to search for? Is there any other place you'd want them to connect to you online?
Sure. The current project right now is to see if there's enough room in the what did I classify it as? The celebratory clothing space. So my wife and her maid of honor, they're both going to a wedding later this year, and they were complaining about dress sizes and dye lots, and it was a conversation that was way out of like something I wanted to listen to. I just wanted to enjoy my drunken noodles, but I was sitting there playing Pokemon Go, virtual reality, augmented reality game, and they were saying, man, it sucks that I can't tell what this dress looks like on me. I'm like, hey, that's something artificial intelligence can solve. So really what I would like to do, the current project, is to see if somebody would be able to run with that idea. Based on my understanding of entrepreneurial spirits, I don't have enough expertise in the bridesmaid world or the celebratory clothing line world. So I would need to strategically align myself with somebody who could actually run forward with that idea, who has the access to the data sets I would need to be able to make that kind of product a reality. Ultimately down the line saying, hey, you use your phone and you can see what this dress looks like on you in real time holographically, which is something we can do with augmented reality and AI at the same time. So if you're out there and you want to explore that with me, let me know. The Twitter account is @TheJimmyMurray. The Instagram account is the very professional @AWildJimmyAppeared, and you can email me at talktojjimmymurray@gmail.com.
Nice. And actually, just talking to you, I know you have like a million ideas and things that it looks like just in life in general, you're looking at all possibilities and conversations and things that you stumble across. And I guess the big question is, how do you decide which one you're actually going to dedicate time to?
That's a cool approach. It's a combination of what do I feel passionate the most about in relationship to how much money can this bring in, or how much improvement it can bring to the world. And as I am increasing, I guess, my brand capital and my social capital and my financial capital, I'm finding the tiebreaker often goes to the stuff that's stuff that I'm passionate about, which is not a terrible position to be in. In fact, it's a very awesome position to be in. Once your life is dedicated not to surviving, you can literally do anything you want. And so just do something that at the end of the day keeps you happy, that you don't have to escape from. Don't live a life that you have to escape from, I guess, is the ultimate advice and wisdom that I would give today.
Amen. Preach it.
Yes. And so that actually is the perfect segue to bring us into our final question, which has 2 parts. And that is, first, what's the biggest difference that you would like your business or businesses to make in your own life? And then ultimately, second part is, what's the biggest difference that you hope that what you're doing will make in the lives of the people that you're serving.
So what is that legacy?
As we've talked about optimization and efficiency, and living in the corporate bureaucratic world, which is neither, I would like my mark to be that things were able to get done quicker because of me. People weren't having to stay at work for 8 hours a day, and when they only had 15 minutes of work to do, that they were able to get whatever they needed to do done, and they were able to explore their lives and really find out what makes them them, what makes them unique, what gives them an identity, and really plug in people into this wonderful ecosystem we have in humanity. I think too many times we get caught up in the day to day, and we're unable to fulfill our life purpose. I hear too many stories of people just like waiting until they retire to live life. Just do it now. Let's just do it now. Just save up enough money, take the risk. If it doesn't work, jobs are always going to be available. You can always go back to work, but again, time is the scarcest resource. So ultimately I would love it if people could just be themselves and get paid at the same time.
Amen.
And that's something that truly resonates with who we are. Because at the end of the day, our mission and our calling is to help people live their purpose and monetize their purpose. Because I think anyone can make money doing anything that they're passionate about. It's just taking those steps to really understand how to do it, finding out how to do it.
So what would this look like for you? So I'm assuming you would wish the same upon yourself. So being that you have gotten to the point that you're at now and you have the ability to focus on your passions, where do you see it leading for yourself?
This is a terrible analogy, but I immediately thought of that commercial that Matt, do you guys remember that old Matt commercial where like the Olympic runner is like running with a torch and she bashes the screen in? And actually this is a terrible analogy. There's this iconic Matt commercial. I guess I considered myself to be this nationwide brand, but I do not want to be, I don't want to be conflated with the Big Brother approach to that commercial. I want to be the happiness focal. I want to be. I think ultimately this lends itself to what I always wanted to be. Like it's that old Nintendo Wii strategy. Back in the day, back in 2007, Nintendo kind of saw that they had the cheaper system compared to Microsoft in there than Xbox 3. I want to say it's the 360 and the PlayStation 3 as by Sony. And Nintendo said, we want to be in everybody's home and then leave the competition between Microsoft and Sony. So for me, I just want to be a part of everybody's day. Like you start your day off with your mug of coffee, which makes you happy, and then your screen of Jimmy, which makes you laugh, and then you go about your day.
I like that.
Well, you certainly make us smile and laugh. So mission accomplished on this end.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that not only will you work your way into the screens and hearts and minds of people all over the world, but that when you do so, that you will make their world a little bit brighter.
So again, we really look forward to just seeing how your journey continues to evolve and be a witness to it at some level. We love your energy. We love what you're doing. We love your story. And really the example that you are for other people, that it is possible, that you can face challenges no matter how big that challenge is, but you can define how you view that challenge and what you do with it, and to really follow your passion, your purpose, and create the life that you want. And get out of that cubicle at the end of the day and live the life that you want to live.
Nice.
So
good stuff.
So thank you. Thank you for being part of our podcast and for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. And again, we'll put out, how people can reach you. One more thing I don't even think that we mentioned. We talked about your course. How can people take your course if they're interested in learning more about coding and doing it more from a comedy side?
Absolutely. So you want to go to, it's featured on udemy.com, and as I'm saying that, I realize I have a free version on YouTube that I need to take down legally. So I will go ahead and do that after the show. On udemy.com, you want to look for Absolute Beginners Programming by Jimmy Murray. And I will create a coupon code for you that you can, the coupon code will be, what's the name of your show?
Freedom or Bust.
That'll be the coupon code. Great.
Okay, great. So we will share that. And I've taken the course, and it was very eye-opening as far as helping me really understand what programming is and how it works. And he uses humor, of course, in his Jimmy style, and uses an analogy of cooking to help you understand how programming works. So even if you don't want to be a programmer, and if you've always wondered, like, what are these people doing to make all of this technology work? If you want to understand, it's a great way to wrap your head around Jimmy's world.
Yeah. I like that, Jimmy's world.
Oh.
I like that. All right, well, thank you again. Take care, and we look forward to seeing how your journey unfolds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, fellow Freedom Junkies, for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to help us grow, please rate and share this podcast. You can also become a member of Freedom Nation. Visit freedomorbustpodcast.com and sign up to receive access to exclusive content and take the 21-day happiness challenge. As you know, we believe that entrepreneurship is the ultimate form of empowerment, which is why we created the Side Hustle Business Startup course for anyone looking to create their own income and take back their power. We offer an exclusive discount for our podcast listeners. Find out more at freedomorbustpodcast.com.